ranked number 1 flag football quarterback. Rajon Rondo is somehow the top-ranked flag football quarterback in America. This whole thing kicked off when Frankie Vision dropped a clip showing Rondo slinging passes like he's been doing it forever, and the caption said it plain as day. He's the number 1 ranked quarterback in the country. After that, it spread fast. Outlets like TalkSport, A Sea of Blue, and even the Times of India ran with it. They weren't just tossing out clickbait either. They highlighted his quarterback roots back in high school and brought up how his NBA passing was basically a tryout reel for flag football. Doc Rivers once called him their version of Tom Brady, which feels a lot less exaggerated now. His court vision, timing, and accuracy have made this leap onto the flag field feel oddly natural. Watching him in those videos, it's not just gimmicky backyard stuff either. He's hitting deep throws, scrambling with control, and standing calm in the pocket like it's a playoff game. People online couldn't get enough. The internet turned it into a whole moment, and flag football pages kept reposting his highlights. Then the wildest part, there's talk he could end up on Team USA when flag football hits the Olympics in 2028. He'd be 39, but that storyline writes itself. A 2-time NBA champ suiting up for gold in a totally different sport? Whether it's hype or not, this story's turned into its own kind of legend. And honestly, I'm all for the chaos. Shaq accepts. Boxing challenge from Charlie Mack. This wild matchup got set in motion after Charlie Mack Alston called out Shaq over a neck chop from more than 10 years ago. According to reports, the whole thing started in Dallas during an autograph signing when Shaq allegedly tried cutting the line. Mack, who used to be Will Smith's bodyguard, apparently wasn't having it and gave him a neck chop to prove the point. Fast forward to now, Mack shows up on Instagram with Damon Feldman from Official Celebrity Boxing and makes the whole challenge public. He dragged up the old story, dropped a fight poster, and gave Shaq a new nickname, Sha Knocked Out. Not the most creative insult, but the internet definitely noticed. Shaq didn't waste any time. He hit the Instagram comments with "I accept, let's do it," then followed that up with a full video response. He told them to name the time and place and hit back with a joke about the neck chop being the reason he talks funny. That's actually kind of gold. The fight's being pushed as a super heavyweight showdown, and it makes sense. Shaq's listed height is 7 feet 1 inch, and during his career, he weighed between 310 and 325 pounds. Max reportedly around 6 feet 6 inches and close to 290 pounds. So this isn't your average celebrity boxing stunt. Official Celebrity Boxing's behind the event, the same group that's previously staged fights with Jose Canseco, Tonya Harding, and Lamar Odom. Shaq accepted the challenge in mid-August 2025, and while there's no date or venue yet, it's officially on. Giannis hints at Knicks via a New York live stream. When Giannis jumped on a live stream with iShow Speed in early July 2025, nobody expected anything other than some jokes and random chatter. Instead, Knicks fans got a reason to refresh trade rumor threads. While chatting with Speed, Giannis casually dropped a quote that had people reaching for their phones. When someone brought up New York's rough tax situation, Giannis shrugged it off and said, "A lot of people have tried to convince me to go and play there and stuff." No specific team was named, but it didn't take long for Knicks fans to start connecting imaginary dots. He followed it up with a wobbly answer when asked if he's staying in Milwaukee. His words? Probably. We'll see. I love Milwaukee. That's just enough hesitation to light a fire under every blog headline for the next week. Sports Illustrated pointed out that his "a lot of people" comment could mean advisors or agents, maybe even players. The Sun tried to play it down, but even they admitted that his vague delivery leaves the door wide open. Barstool Sports leaned all the way in and made it about fan-made Photoshop edits of Giannis in a Knicks jersey. The New York Post didn't miss the chance to fan the flames either. They highlighted how his tone and history of off-season chatter keep the rumor alive. This isn't even the first time Giannis has been linked to the Knicks, Nets, Heat, or Raptors. Analysts like Shams have hinted he might be open to different futures, even if he's still focused on chasing another title with Milwaukee. All it took was one live stream and a few loose words to flip the trade talk switch again. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Draymond Green versus Jordan Poole. New details leaked. Back in 2021, during a Warriors practice, Draymond Green reportedly told Jordan Poole, "I'll beat you up." That was apparently the spark. What made it even more intense is that Steve Kerr's son, Charlie Kerr, jumped in and told Poole to stand up for himself. That moment laid the foundation for what became one of the most heated internal feuds in recent NBA memory. Poole didn't back down. He fired back with the line that got under Draymond's skin fast. "You're an expensive backpack for 30. Yeah, that's what he allegedly said, referring to Green riding Steph Curry's success. That insult hit deep, and according to reports, it's what pushed things toward boiling over. Later on, during another scrimmage, Draymond reportedly called Poole the B word, not once, repeatedly. Teammates and staff noted it came out in response to what Draymond saw as cocky play and unnecessary fouls from Poole. It was like every bad feeling had been waiting to erupt. Here's the sequence. First, Draymond made the threat during that 2021 practice. Then, Poole hit back with that now infamous backpack line. And finally, during another practice, Draymond started using that insult over and over. Every moment stacked until things exploded. Reports tied all of it to the eventual punch that went viral in 2022. But the tension didn't come out of nowhere. It was years in the making. Each exchange, every jab, verbal and otherwise, built a wall between them. There's no fixing something like that in a locker room. Once respect's gone, it's game over. The punch was just the final punctuation mark. Kobe drops 62 3/4. On December 20th, 2005, Kobe Bryant didn't just light up the scoreboard. He torched the entire Dallas Mavericks squad by himself. Through 3 quarters, Kobe had 62 points. Dallas, only 61. That's not a typo. He single-handedly outscored the entire opposing team. Nobody had ever done that in the shot clock era. The breakdown's insane. 15 in the first, 17 in the second. Then he dropped 30 in the third quarter alone. That third was a franchise record by itself. And he did it all shooting 18 for 31 from the field, 22 for 25 from the line, and 4 made three-pointer. Absolute clinic. The Lakers were up big, so big that coach Phil Jackson sat him the entire fourth. Assistant coach Brian Shaw asked if Kobe wanted to go back in. Kobe said no. He didn't need more. He'd made his point. It wasn't that night. That's what he told them. And yeah, that game led directly into what would come next. Just over a month later, he dropped 81 on Toronto. That December night wasn't just a hot streak. It was part one of a legendary scoring stretch. Fans still talk about how he did all that in only 32 minutes. It's just ridiculous. Even on online, fans can't believe it. One said he had 32 in the first half, then another 30 in the third. 14 games later, he has 63 through 3 and ends with 81. This night was more than a stat. It was Kobe, showing the league exactly what domination looked like. And somehow, he wasn't even done. Tracy McGrady's baseball stint. In February 2014, Tracy McGrady officially made the jump from the hardwood to the pitcher's mound. After retiring from the NBA, he joined the Sugar Land Skeeters, a team in the Atlantic League, to chase his long-held dream of playing professional baseball. He was signed as a pitcher and began working toward a spot in the rotation. During the regular season, McGrady appeared in 4 games. Across 6 2/3 innings, he allowed 4 hits, 5 runs, and issued 10 walks. Notably, he didn't record a single strikeout in any of those outings. Despite the rough stat line, his presence was a major event, drawing attention from across the sports world. That summer, the Atlantic League All-Star Game was held at Constellation Field, McGrady's home turf. As part of the festivities, he entered the home run derby with local little leaguer Will Dolan as his teammate. McGrady didn't hit any home runs, but Dolan delivered in overtime, earning them the win. McGrady then started the All-Star Game itself. He pitched 1 1/3 innings, gave up 1 run on 1 hit, and finally struck out the last batter he faced. That punch-out was his first and only career strikeout in professional baseball. Right after walking off the mound, he announced his retirement from the game. He let the team know that would be his final appearance and expressed thanks for the experience. It was a brief run, but it checked a box on his personal dream list. McGrady's time with the Skeeters may have been short, but it ended with a win. 1 strikeout, 1 Derby trophy, and 1 very satisfied pitcher. Troy Hudson's rap. Back in May 2007, Troy Hudson dropped a rap album called Undrafted under the name T-Hud. He released it through his own label, Hudson Record, also known as Nutty Boys Entertainment. Hudson didn't just lend his voice, he self-produced the whole thing, wrote the lyrics, and handled the business side. It wasn't just a hobby project. He went all in. The album had some serious names attached. He brought in Ray J, 3-6 Mafia, UGK, and even Static Major. With those kinds of features, it seemed like he might actually have something going. But then came the numbers. In its first week, Undrafted sold only 78 copies. Not 78,000, 78 total. Slam magazine couldn't believe it. Their words? 78 copies. That's god-awful. Critics were not kind. DJ Booth threw him straight into the worst NBA Rappers Hall of Fame. Bleacher Report said the album had some okay beats, but couldn't get past the brutal sales. Rap Reviews offered a more balanced take, giving him credit for trying, even calling the album surprisingly solid. But they also said it leaned hard into generic gangster cliches. It all came across like a vanity project, an NBA player trying to prove he could be more than just an athlete. But the album's reception buried that message. Pop culture rankings always stick him near the bottom when listing athletes who tried to make music. In the end, Undrafted became more of a punchline than a pivot. Big features, big ambitions, and a painfully small audience. That 78 figure became the legacy, and for Troy Hudson, the mic didn't quite return the favor. 107-point half by the Phoenix Suns. On November 10th, 1990, the Phoenix Suns hosted the Denver Nuggets and unleashed one of the most ridiculous scoring explosions in league history. By halftime, the Suns had racked up 107 points. Yes, in just 2 quarters. The Nuggets had 67. That's a 40-point gap at the break. And the total combined points, 174, set another league record for most in a half. This game wasn't some random outburst either. It was a full-on track meet. The Suns scored at will, slicing through Denver's defense like it wasn't even there. And here's the kicker. They did it without hitting a single three-pointer. Not one. All 107 came from twos, free throws, and relentless tempo. The Nuggets, coached by Paul Westhead, were known for running fast, but they had no answer for what Phoenix brought that night. By the time it was over, the final score was 173 to 143. That tied the record at the time for most points scored in a regulation game, matching the Boston Celtics total from 1959. And as of 2025, the 107 points scored in one half still stands as the NBA's all-time record. The fact that it happened without any threes makes it even more unbelievable in today's era. Every single bucket came the hard way. That night turned into one of the wildest scoring showcases the league's ever seen. Phoenix didn't just run up the score. They sprinted into the record books and left the Nuggets breathless. And to make things even better, I've teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, the go-to app for every basketball fan who loves being part of the action. The season's heating up, and there's no better time to jump in. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins, plus 3 months of NBA League Pass on us. That means you can watch every dunk, block, and buzzer beater while your bets play out live. Again, new customers bet $5 and get 3 months of League Pass on us, and $300 if your bet wins, paid in bonus bets. Just sign up with promo code HOOPSEXPLAINED. Claim the offer. And if you love the thrill of live betting, DraftKings has you covered. Bet on player props and in-progress games as they happen. Want an even bigger payout? Try same-game parlays and stack those picks. So what are you waiting for? Download DraftKings Sportsbook, sign up using promo code HOOPSEXPLAINED, and let the games begin. The crown is yours. 2015 NBA Draft, the last 12 carnage. The final stretch of the 2015 NBA Draft might be one of the most quietly disastrous endings to a draft night ever. Picks 49 through 60, practically a black hole. Out of those last 12 players selected, only one ever appeared in an NBA game. Let's break it down. That year's draft featured 60 total picks. 44 players from that group eventually saw the court. But when you zoom in on the bottom 12, picks 49 through 60, it's a graveyard. 11 of those 12 guys never played a single second in an NBA game. Nothing. No garbage time, no injury sub, not even a ceremonial check-in. Just nothing. The lone exception, Brandon Dawson. He was taken 56th overall out of Michigan State, selected by the Pelicans, then traded to the Clip. He did make his NBA debut and recorded actual stats in real games, so he officially counts. Every other name in that stretch, from Luka Mitrovic at pick 60 to the string of international flyers and second-round gambles in between, vanished into obscurity. The contrast is wild. One guy from Michigan State sneaks into the league, while 11 others never crack a roster. For all the talk about second-round steals, this was a complete collapse. Usually, you'll get a couple late bloomers or overseas prospects who come over later. Not here. That 12-pick run became one of the most unproductive draft chunks in modern NBA history. One survivor out of 12. If you were looking for a dark horse to make it in that group, your only hope was Brandon Dawson, and even he barely made it past the starting line. Gene Conley wins in both leagues. Gene Conley did what no other athlete ever has. He won championships in both the NBA and Major League Baseball. He pitched his way to a World Series title with the Milwaukee Braves in 1957, then turned around and grabbed 3 straight NBA championships with the Boston Celtics from 1959 to 1961. One man, 2 sports, 4 rings. His baseball career stretched across 11 seasons. He suited up for the Boston and Milwaukee Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Boston Red Sox. On the mound, Conley logged 91 wins, 96 losses, and an earned run average of 3.82. He struck out 888 batters in over 1,500 innings and was selected to multiple All-Star games, including a strong showing in 1955. He didn't just dabble in basketball either. Drafted in the 10th round by the Celtics in 1952, Conley played parts of 6 NBA seasons. After focusing on baseball early, he returned to the hardwood in the 1958-59 season, carving out a role as a forward center. He helped the Celtics go on their dominant run, contributing meaningful minutes during their title streak. Among all 4 major pro leagues in the United States, only Conley pulled this off, winning both an NBA title and a World Series. Otto Graham won titles in football and basketball, but not at the pro level in both. Conley's rare versatility places him in a league of his own, making him one of the most unique multi-sport legends in American sports history. Ramon Sessions versus Chris Paul versus Steve Nash. This one's a stat head jaw drop. Ramon Sessions, the solid but mostly unheralded point guard, quietly posted career highs that top both Chris Paul and Steve Nash, at least in one surprising category, and partially in another. Let's talk scoring first. Sessions dropped 44 points on February 7th, 2009 against Detroit. That tops Chris Paul's career high of 43, which he reached twice. Sneaking ahead of Paul in scoring output isn't something you'd expect from a guy who bounced around 9 NBA teams. Now for assists. This is where Sessions really outdid both legends. He dished out 24 assists on April 14th, 2008 against the Bulls. That's more than Chris Paul's career high of 21, and also more than Nash's 22. So Sessions has the edge in playmaking, at least in the one-game peak category. Here's the scoreboard. In points, Sessions beats Paul. In assists, he beats both. It doesn't mean he had the same impact or legacy, but if you're going off raw single-game highs, Sessions has a quirky claim to fame. It's a reminder that even role players can have historic nights. Tucked into the weird corners of NBA box score history, Lil B curses James Harden during the 2015 Western Conference Finals. Rapper Lil B, known as the Bass God, called out James Harden for using the cooking dance celebration without credit. Lil B had popularized the move years earlier, and after a few warnings on social media, when ignored, he officially placed what he called the Bass God curse on Harden. The announcement came on May 24th, 2015, through a TMZ interview, where Lil B declared Harden cursed for the rest of the playoffs and beyond. Days later, Game 5 of the series took place at Oracle Arena, and Lil B showed up in person. That same night, Harden committed 13 turnovers, the most ever in a single NBA playoff game. Fans immediately pointed to the curse. The timing and the stat line fueled the story. Harden had ignored Lil B's demand for credit, and now he was paying the price. A few weeks later, on June 13th, Lil B tweeted that he had lifted the curse, saying Harden might be dealing with things deeper than basketball, but that wasn't the official end. Over 2 years passed before Lil B formally lifted the curse on live television. On June 4th, 2017, during an episode of ESPN's First Take, he confirmed it was over. Here's the timeline. May 24th, the curse was placed. Game 5, Harden sets a turnover record. June 13th, there's a soft lift via Twitter. And finally, June 4th, 2017, the Bass God curse is publicly ended. Whether you believe in the curse or not, the events lined up in a way that made this one of the weirdest side plots in playoff history. Knicks signed Clyde Frazier in 1997 prank. On April 1st, 1997, the New York Knicks pulled off one of the greatest April Fools stunts in NBA history. They announced that 52-year-old Walt Clyde Frazier was coming out of retirement to rejoin the team on a 10-day contract. According to the fake report, he'd be replacing backup guard Scott Brooks on the active roster. The whole thing was staged with complete buy-in from the organization, including MSG Networks and the team's broadcast crew. Clyde himself played the part perfectly. In a fake interview, he said he was just fooling around at practice when assistant coach Ernie Grunfeld noticed his moves and encouraged him to make a comeback. Meanwhile, Mike Breen acted stunned and heartbroken, claiming Clyde never told him a word. Even Cleveland's head coach Mike Fratello pretended to be worried about facing Frazier again. And then there was Scott Brooks, supposedly the cut player, who gave the most dramatic fake response of all. He said, "The guy's old. What can he bring to the team that I can't do?" He even joked about hoping to get picked up somewhere else just to prove the Knicks had made a mistake. The prank was so detailed, it got picked up as real news. Fans thought Clyde was really suiting up again. But by the time the game started that night, the joke was revealed. No contract, no comeback, just a perfect bit of theater. It was bold, hilarious, and full of nostalgia. For one night, the Knicks made everyone believe Clyde was about to step on the court again. And that's why it's still remembered decades later. Wilkins Draft Day Trade. On June 29th, 1982, the Utah Jazz selected Dominique Wilkins with the 3rd overall pick in the NBA draft. He had just finished dominating at the University of Georgia and looked like a sure future star. But there was a problem. Wilkins didn't want to play in Utah. The team wanted him to play power forward, and he had no interest in the fit or the location. Then came the trade. On September 2nd, the Jazz shipped Wilkins to the Atlanta Hawks. In return, they got veteran scorers John Drew and Freeman Williams, along with $1 million in cash. At the time, Utah was struggling financially and couldn't afford Wilkins' contract demands. What followed was one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. Wilkins exploded in Atlanta. He became the face of the franchise, earning 9 All-Star selections, a scoring title in 1985-86, and 2 Slam Dunk Contest crowns. For 10 straight seasons, he averaged more than 25 points per game and became known as one of the most electrifying scorers the league had ever seen. Meanwhile, the Jazz got short-term production at best. John Drew played 3 seasons in Utah, but never matched his earlier All-Star form. Freeman Williams barely made a dent, appearing in fewer than 30 games before exiting the league. So here's the final score. The Hawks got a franchise icon, a Hall of Fame forward, and over a decade of All-NBA production. The Jazz got 2 role players and some cash. The deal didn't just reshape 2 franchises, it became a textbook example of how a draft pick and a player's preferences can alter basketball history. David Blatt trolls, Cavs fail. In January 2018, David Blatt, coaching Team Europe in the Turkish Basketball Super League All-Star Game, couldn't help taking a shot at his former team. The Cleveland Cavaliers had just given up 148 points in a blowout loss to the Thunder. During pre-game media coverage, Blatt joked, "I hope we don't give up as many points as the Cavs did last night." And then karma showed up on a scoreboard. By the time the All-Star game was over, Team Europe had surrendered 151 points, 3 more than the Cavs. Final score, Team Asia 151, Team Europe 142. The stat line didn't just make Blatt's joke age badly, it made it instantly ironic. SB Nation nailed the mood with their post-game headline, "If you're out here clowning, you're also eligible to be clowned." It was one of those moments where the punchline wrote itself. The whole thing went viral, not just because of the timing, but because it happened in an all-star game. Not exactly where you'd expect a dramatic backfire. Blatt's jab at Cleveland turned into a full-on boomerang. A former NBA coach mocked his old team for defensive collapse, then got torched harder in a glorified exhibition. So here's the summary. 1 troll comment, 1 historic defensive meltdown, and 1 giant helping of poetic justice. In sports, there's nothing more satisfying than a roast that flips itself mid-sentence. Juwan Howard's voided contract changes the Heat's path. In the summer of 1996, Howard was set to make history. After receiving an $89 million offer from the Washington Bullets, the Miami Heat countered with a deal worth between $98 and $101 million, what would have been the league's first 9-figure contract. Howard agreed to the Heat's offer, but on July 31st, the NBA voided the deal. The league cited salary cap violations. Miami had failed to properly account for bonuses to Tim Hardaway and PJ Brown, and they'd also committed to re-signing Alonzo Mourning. All those numbers pushed them over the limit. The Heat pushed back, publicly disputed the ruling, and even threatened arbitration, but they ultimately backed off, likely to avoid league penalties, which could have included a multi-million-dollar fine or a suspension for Pat Riley. With the contract voided, Howard re-signed with the Bullets for 7 years, $105 million, becoming the first player in league history to officially pass the $100 million mark. With Howard off the board, Miami pivoted fast. They locked in PJ Brown, who became a vital defensive anchor. They added Dan Madrill for shooting and perimeter D, and during the season, they picked up Isaac Austin, a solid front court contributor. The new mix worked. The Heat went 61-21, best record in franchise history at the time, and reached the Eastern Conference Finals. So while Miami lost the Howard sweepstakes, the roster they built in response turned out to be even more successful. The voided contract wasn't just a missed deal, it reset the team's strategy and helped launch one of the best seasons in Heat history. Brunson and Robinson, 3 picks apart. In the second round of the 2018 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks selected Jalen Brunson with the 33rd overall pick. Just 3 picks later, at number 36, the New York Knicks drafted Mitchell Robinson. At the time, neither selection made national headlines, but 7 years later, they've become pillars of a Knicks core that reached the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. Brunson, after several seasons developing in Dallas, made the jump to New York and took over as the team's starting point guard. He became their offensive engine, playoff leader, and all-star presence. Meanwhile, Robinson remained with the Knicks and grew into their defensive anchor, leading the interior, dominating the glass, and protecting the rim with elite instincts. Once he recovered from ankle surgery, their roles couldn't be more complementary. Brunson directs the offense, runs pick and roll, and controls tempo. Robinson anchors the paint, changes shots, and sets brutal screens, and both arrived in the league from the same draft, just 3 names apart, one to Dallas, one to New York. Now, they're together, starting at point guard and center for a contending team in one of the NBA's toughest markets. Neither came from the lottery, and both outperformed their draft positions. Their careers rose in parallel until they met in the same uniform, forming the backbone of the Knicks' resurgence. 3 picks apart, 2 second-rounders, 1 franchise-shifting duo. Stories like this are rare, and for the Knicks, it's become one of the most rewarding chapters in recent memory. Oscar Schmidt declines NBA to represent Brazil. In the 1984 NBA draft, the New Jersey Nets selected Oscar Schmidt in the 6th round with the 131st overall pick. They offered him a guaranteed contract and a spot in training camp, but Schmidt declined, choosing to stay in Europe. He was earning more money in Italy, and more importantly, accepting an NBA deal would have made him ineligible to play for Brazil in international tournaments under the rules at that time. Instead of chasing NBA stardom, Schmidt committed to his national team and became one of the most prolific scorers in basketball history. He competed in 5 Olympic Games, 1980, 84, 88, 92, and 96, making him one of only a few players to do so. He led 3 of those tournaments in scoring, and at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, he averaged a staggering 42.3 points per game. He still holds the Olympic records for most points in a single game, 55, and for total points scored in Olympic history with 1,093. He never wore an NBA jersey, but he scored nearly 49,700 points in his pro career, more than Jordan, Kobe, or Kareem. Only LeBron James has passed that total. Schmidt dominated in Brazil, Italy, and Spain. He was inducted into the FIBA Hall of Fame in 2010 and the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2013. His decision to turn down the NBA wasn't about spotlight. It was about loyalty and legacy, and he built one of the most unbreakable scoring legacies the sport has ever seen. Scot Pollard played a Jayhawk legend. In 2014, former Kansas star and NBA champion Scot Pollard took on a new role, not on the court, but on the screen. He appeared in the independent film Jayhawkers, which tells the story of Wilt Chamberlain's arrival at the University of Kansas and the social changes surrounding college basketball in the 1950s. Pollard portrayed B.H. Bourne, a true Jayhawk legend from an earlier era. Bourne was a dominant center who starred in the 1953 NCAA title game, recording 26 points, 15 rebounds, and 13 block shots. A historic performance that earned him the Final Four Most Outstanding Player award. Just a few years later, he played a key role in recruiting Wilt Chamberlain to Kansas, passing the torch to the next great big. For Pollard, the role was personal. He had also been a standout center at Kansas, wore the crimson and blue, and carved out an 11-year career in the NBA, winning a championship with the Boston Celtics in 2008. His cameo in Jayhawkers brought everything full circle. One Kansas big man honoring another, decades apart, but united by tradition. So while Pollard made his name with hustle and one-of-a-kind hairstyles in the pros, he also did something rare, portraying a fellow legend from his own alma mater on film. A Jayhawk playing a Jayhawk, not just a cameo, but a tribute to legacy. 1 versus 1 tournament, this wild little chapter in NBA history somehow slipped through the cracks. During the NBA Finals in 1972 and 1973, 16 NBA players squared off in a single elimination one-on-one tournament live during halftime on national television. Yeah, that happened. The games were played to 20, but a player had to win by 4. There were no 3-point shots, just a take-it-out line, a 10-second shot clock, and free throws after the 3rd foul. And no, they weren't messing around. This was real competition, with real money. The total prize pool, $50,500. The champ walked away with $15,000. Runner-up, $7,500. In 1972, Bob Lanier won it all by taking down JoJo White. And just to make it weird, Bill Russell handed him a briefcase stuffed with $15,000 $1 bills on television in front of everyone. Then the next year, Jeff Petrie took the crown by beating Barry Clemens 36-32 at Madison Square Garden right after Game 3 of the finals, and fans stayed to watch, all 19,000 of them. Petrie even scored some cash for his teammates, $100 per round he won, which meant $500 per guy. It was chaotic, it was random, it was peak early 70s NBA energy, and the tournament got real. Petrie beat names like Gail Goodrich, Bob Dandridge, and Bob McAdoo. Clemens knocked out John Brisker and Spencer Haywood. No gimmicks, no acting, just one-on-one, with a briefcase full of money and a legendary broadcast crew calling every awkward, sweaty minute up. Steven Adams comic. So Steven Adams turned 25 and decided to release a comic book about himself. Not a blog post, not a gritty documentary, a full-blown comic book called Kiwi Legend. It dropped at San Diego Comic-Con in 2018, and it's exactly as chaotic as you'd expect. The story follows Adams from a farm in Rotorua with 17 siblings all the way to the NBA draft, with some sci-fi chaos sprinkled in for flavor. There's even a 4-armed alien in there, because why not? Artist Corey Lewis Ray drew the whole thing, and the Oklahoma City Thunder even posted a video hyping it up. Fans at Comic-Con loved it, and of course it sold out fast. It retailed for about 19 New Zealand dollars, but finding one now? Good luck, it's collector gold. But Adams didn't stop with comics. He's a massive anime fan, like real deal binge watch. At one point, he admitted to missing the NBA season opener because he was too locked in watching anime. Not kidding. His favorite shows? Dragon Ball, Super, Naruto, and Hunter x Hunter. Crunchyroll even gave him a shout out, and he shared a One Piece style wanted poster of himself just to drive the point home. It's rare to see a player mix this much personality into their public image. He didn't just bring the bruises on court, he brought anime off court. The whole comic anime fusion thing gives him a whole new angle. He's not just a center, he's a fanboy with a storyline. And honestly, that's what makes it so fun. There's nothing polished or scripted about it. It's Steven Adams being Steven Adams, with comics, anime, and a very Kiwi twist. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching,